Hey, greetings, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West here, the Executive Director of the American Constitutional Rights Union, and welcome to another segment of Live Free TV. You know, there's so much going on right now. I mean, I really don't know where to start, but let's start with this. Who's in charge here in the United States of America right now? I mean, the Democrat National Committee convention is going on, and Monday evening, way late, like 11:30, almost to midnight, Joe Biden shows up finally, and they let the current president finally speak, not in prime time, but, close to everybody else's bedtime. And then, of course, now he has whisked himself away to California for a 2-week vacation. The current vice president is running around campaigning. So let's start with this. Who is running the country? Where are the nuclear codes? I mean, this is a very serious time when, everyone's trying to tell us, hey, don't worry, the border is secure. I mean, we don't have people coming across. Sure, we just had a drive-by shooting, not once but twice, at Lackland Air Force Base right here in San Antonio, Texas. I'm kind of concerned about that. When you think about all the terrorists that have been released out into the country because of the open borders policies of the one person that's now going on vacation, Joe, and the other person that's out campaigning. So who's in charge? Maybe the person in charge is the person that's going to be speaking to, anoint himself as the king of the Democrat Party, Mr. Hussein Obama. Maybe he's the one that's in charge. All of a sudden, we have someone running for president, then we don't have someone running for president. Then instead of having a mini primary, then all of a sudden we got someone coordinated to be president. Someone is pulling the strings in America. I think a lot of people are concerned about who is that person, or is there a group of people that are pulling the strings? I mean, what we just recently saw here in the last couple of months reminds me of the Ides of March. Maybe we should have a new movie called The Ides of July, because that's exactly what happened with Joe Biden. I mean, getting stabbed, not literally, but, metaphysically, as far as his political career. And now what happens? Hey, Joe, come out, speak, 11 o'clock Eastern, and then we put you on a plane and you go away for 2 weeks. You're not in charge. So who is? But what is interesting, Joe, you have a great clip I want to share with everybody, because I think people still remember Milwaukee and the Republican National Convention. Let's look at a little clip to talk about the comparison with this current Democrat National Committee convention in Chicago.
The far-left protesters have descended on Chicago. It's ugly. There's chaos in the city.
Oh, sorry. Didn't see it.
Josh, I don't recall this sort of violence and disorder in Milwaukee for the Republican National Convention. And can you imagine the media coverage if that sort of carry on was happening around the Republicans? But the Democrats seem to have this problem, the left in general.
Yeah, totally. Look, I personally have some knowledge here. I mean, what has happened to the city of Chicago over the past decade is nothing short of tragic. I mean, I lived there from 2013 to 2016. It was not exactly a paradise when it comes to crime and law and order, but from then compared to now, it is truly like night and day. The current mayor, Brandon Johnson, makes his predecessor, Lori Lightfoot, look positively conservative, and she was a leftist nutjob herself. The current guy is calling in all the pro-Hamas troops. They are not enforcing the law there in Chicago at all whatsoever. By the way, there was a small group here called the IAC, the Israeli American Council. They've tried to get their own permits to essentially counter-protest the pro-Hamas, the pro-jihadi crowd. The pro-hostage folks, they've had their permits denied. Funny, you might ask. I mean, it's the same people in the Chicago City Hall who are granting all these permits to the pro-Hamas crowd and are not giving out permits to the pro-Western civilization crowd.
It's interesting to me because when you go inside the hall and you listen to, we love the police. We don't want to defund the police. The police are our friends. But you talk to those police officers in Chicago. I mean, they're fighting against their own government there, as was mentioned, Mayor Brandon Johnson. You look at how they're being treated by these people out in the streets there in Chicago at the DNC convention. It's horrible. It's horrific. I just talked to some friends that I have up in Chicago, and you know what they said? They said that downtown Chicago is shut down. You're not going down there. There are businesses that have boarded themselves up. I don't recall businesses saying that they boarded up in Milwaukee for the Republican National Convention. I don't remember seeing people that were supportive of the, Republican Party or these massive protests. I don't remember, anyone going and attacking the police and doing the things that you just saw were done to the law enforcement officers there. And inside this DNC hall, I mean, let's be very honest. I mean, that very first night, I never knew that little bitty babies in the womb were so bad. They're so evil that they have to be dismembered, torn apart. Now, okay, you got this thing. It's all about reproductive rights. They come up with these nebulous terms that sound so great. But I thought that the very first inalienable right that we had in the Declaration of Independence endowed to us from the Creator God was life. But not if you were an unborn baby in the womb. You have no right to life up to the time you're born. And if you're in Minnesota, guess what? Governor Tim Walz has signed into law that you don't even have rights as a child born. That's infanticide, people. That's what they were talking about in this first night, was dismembering babies in the womb. So you have a person running to be president who was the attorney general in California that brought a case against the person that found out that Planned Parenthood was selling dismembered baby parts for profit. And we're supposed to believe that they love children. You've got a person that is the VP nominee that is all about committing infanticide. He signed that into law in his state. And that's really what Kamala Harris is talking about, too. Children being dismembered in the womb all the way up until the time of birth. And that's supposed to be some rallying cry. That's supposed to be some very, unifying issue. Sitting there and telling us that the economy is great, that we have done a great job with the economy. Inflation rate was 1.4% when Joe Biden and Kamala Harris came in. It's still stubbornly over 3%. It reached an all-time high of 9.1%. The GDP was 6%. And this is coming out of this pandemic thing. The GDP that they were handed over was at 6%. I really wasn't a big fan of Donald Trump spending, but it was about $3.3 trillion. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, $7 trillion. But yet, it's the evil corporations that have brought this inflation. Not the fact that we went after our oil and gas industry and we decimated them. And guess what? Goods and services have to be transported. So if you raise the cost of transportation for goods and services, sadly, it goes over to the consumer. But, Mayor Brandon Johnson of Chicago, he has a great idea. Instead of tackling the crime, which, by the way, in the Democrat National Committee Convention Hall, they're telling us crime is down. But instead of tackling crime in Chicago, where businesses and grocery stores are moving out of neighborhoods, let's just open up government grocery stores. I went over to East Berlin, not once but twice, as a young lieutenant stationed over in Europe. I don't want government grocery stores. Joe, I don't want government grocery stores. They don't work. Shelves end up being empty. Am I right?
Yes. The old break it, take it, and remake it. Commies do it all the time.
Yeah. And so I don't get this line that is coming out. The border's okay. No. Crime is down. No. The economy is great. No. Everything's fine with, energy prices. No. And it's amazing to me that, because I'm talking about policy here, it's amazing to me that you have a person that's been sitting there side by side with the current president, who's now on vacation for 2 weeks. And she's acting like, I had nothing to do with this. Like Sergeant Schultz on Hogan's Heroes. I know nothing. I see nothing. It's just, it just happened. But yes, she tells us she's the last person in the room with Joe Biden on all these important issues, to include Afghanistan, where we just saw the Taliban parading with the $80+ billion of military equipment that we left behind in that strategic, operational, and tactical debacle, to include Black Hawk helicopters flying. But no, 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 no. Kamala makes me feel good. She gives me joy. She just, I don't know, she just warms my spirit. That's what's happening in this Democrat National Convention. But what is even more disturbing, not so much what's inside, what's outside. The gathering of people that support an Islamic terrorist organization. Now, Breitbart just came out with an article at the beginning of this week that our dubious vice president, who is the nominee for president from the Democrat Party, secretly met with the mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, the largest Arab community in the United States of America, hotbed of Islamic jihadism, anti-Semitism, the home of Rashida Tlaib. And the mayor of Dearborn is a very anti-Semitic individual. So what you see outside of that convention hall for the Democrats is really who they are on the inside. The fact that we have individuals there that believe that October the 7th is okay, that we should cut off aid to a sovereign state, Israel, that was attacked by a terrorist organization. That's who governs Gaza. That's inconceivable to me. Roll this tape where we look at what is going on in Chicago on the streets and how some students are standing up.
You see my face? Show me your face.
There are some kids at the University of Chicago that are just like that. Here's a great group of young fellas pushing, basically telling the Hamas freaks to take off their masks.
Why you show your face? Show your face. Show your face. You see my face? Show me your face. Show me your face. Take it off. I know you can show your face.
You've got the masked jihadists, and then you know what's great about that? Because not only is it just great to see American flags, but I guarantee you, if you took that whole group of kids, young people, whatever you want to call them, that are out there with the American flags chanting, and they're not wearing masks, and they're not calling to kill anybody, and they're not stopping anybody from doing anything, that if you were to sit down with all of them and ask them what their politics are all over the place, which, by the way, is much like what Donald Trump has done, right? Donald Trump, who by no means is a traditional conservative, right? But now he's the leader of the America First movement in the United States. So there can be a wide swath of people. The thing that unites us is the flag. It is America.
Dave Broom is absolutely right. And you think about how when Prime Minister Netanyahu came to deliver a historic, I think, fourth speech to a joint session of Congress, somehow the vice president, Kamala Harris, could not be there for that speech. She had a sorority event to attend. So you're out there meeting with the anti-Semitic mayor of Dearborn, Michigan. You have a sorority event when the prime minister of a nation under siege from Islamic terrorist jihadists, being it Islamic Jihad, the Hamas, Hezbollah. You don't have time to hear him speak. And now look at what is going on in the streets. And remember, never forget this, that these pro-Hamas supporters, that's who they are. Palestine is a region. There's not a people. There's never been a country called Palestine. There's never been a people. Okay, that was Yasser Arafat's great marketing ruse to associate a region with people so that he could elevate his case, the grandfather of Islamic terrorism, to be known for sure. But to think about these pro-Hamas supporters in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, during that joint session of Congress, when Prime Minister Netanyahu was there giving a speech, ripped down American flags and burned them and replaced them with the Hamas flag. That's what that flag is. It's a terrorist flag. And so here is Joe Biden in his late night, midnight speech. And you know what he said? He said those people outside there protesting, meaning the pro-Hamas wing of the Democrat Party, he said they have a point. What point is that? That if you are a non-state, non-uniform belligerent, if you're a terrorist organization that has in your charter the extermination, elimination, and eradication of an entire race of people just because of their race, being the Jews, in their nation state, Israel, they are warranted to do exactly what they did. See, the Democrat Party has an unholy alliance with Islamic jihadists. The Obama administration released those 4 senior members of the Taliban. They're back in power. The Biden administration tucked tail and ran away from Afghanistan, leaving 80 some odd $80 billion of military equipment. I think now the Taliban is, I don't know, somewhere between the 11th and the 14th largest army, most well-equipped army in the world. That's our stuff that we left them. And now Afghanistan is a terrorist sanctuary once and all over again. Iran, who was bankrupt during the Trump administration, is now supporting Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, all the Islamic terrorist organizations. The border, which is wide open, we have jihadists coming across. Remember this. If there's one thing you can remember out of this little monologue that I've given, there are more single military-age males who have come into this country illegally in the past 3.5 years than the active duty and strength of our United States Army. There are more illegal gotaways, this classification of people that have come across the border. We don't know who they are or where they are. But there are more of them than the entire active duty strength of our United States military. Marine Corps, they're at World War I levels. But yet we're sitting around here saying Kamala Harris brings me joy. I'm talking about policies. I'm talking about principles. I'm talking about your values. I'm talking about protecting and upholding the Constitution of the United States of America and this constitutional republic. That's what has to be our focus. You cannot live free if you're allowing terrorists to enter into your country and run amok. You cannot live free if you are allowing supporters of terrorism to take to the streets and terrorize you and wearing masks. You know, when I see someone and you know, that wrap around their face, reminds me of the people that used to shoot at me. And I shot back. I don't want to see us get to that point here on the streets of the United States of America, but we're getting daggum close. Because we are not standing up and calling it for it. That's not freedom of speech. That's not freedom of expression. When you're talking about death to America. When you're talking about they have a point. What is the point? That you can go in and kill innocent women and children and throw babies in the ovens. And of course, the other side's going to come back and say, well, you know, the Israelis are killing, you know, innocent women and children. No. Hamas is killing innocent women and children because they're using them as shields. They're putting their military facilities in and around hospitals, tunnels, underneath, you know, buildings. You even have UNRWA, the Relief Workers Association of the United Nations, supporting Islamic jihadism and terrorism in Gaza. We know because of the rescue operation that hostages were being kept in apartments of individuals there in Gaza. But yet they have a point, Joe Biden. I want you to enjoy your vacation. But just the same as Tim Walz, we have a collection of modern day Neros. Tim Walz, I call him the modern day Nero who fiddled while Minneapolis burned. We have a collection of people, these progressives, these socialists, these leftists, these Marxists, who are fiddling away while our country is being set on fire, which is what happened when they burned our flag in Washington, D.C. So if you want to live free, you got a great choice to make. You saw what the Republican National Committee looks like. You see what the Democrat National Committee Convention looks like. You see that at the Republican convention, they talked about making America wealthy again, making America strong again, making America safe again, making America great again, which means respecting your individual rights, freedoms, and liberties. What is the other side talking about? Pro-Hamas supporters have a point. And babies in the womb, they should be dismembered. Which way are you going to decide going forward? If you're steadfast and loyal, you align yourself with the Constitution. If you're not, you align yourself with the destruction of the Constitution. Here at Live Free TV, we believe in aligning ourselves with the Constitution of the United States of America. Till next time, live free.